there. But yeah, the stuff that we're going over won't take too long, maybe like 20 minutes or so. And then I'll walk around, make sure everybody was able to follow along and do the same steps. Make sure that everybody's yeah, ready to start the homework for this weekend. And then you'll have hopefully a lot of time to work on the homework itself. So in order to motivate what we're going to do here, I have opened up our Lambda server over here, just up here connecting from my laptop to the Lambda server. Now I'm in the Lambda server. And let's just, sometimes when I'm working on like temporary things, in order to help keep things organized a little bit, I make a temp folder. Whoops, that's not what I want. So let's rmdir. I don't think we've seen this command yet. Rmdir removes an empty folder. I wanted make dir tmp. So tmp short for temporary. And going in there. Again, today in class, just highlighting some steps here for the first 20 minutes or so. Recommend that, well, this first 5-minute part, just get a sense of what's going on. You're not going to be able to follow along with what I'm going to do here in a second. But then I'm going to show you some things with Git so that you'll be able to follow along with what we're doing here. So again, I just made a temporary folder that I like to have a temporary folder that I work in just to keep things organized. And I want to create a simple Python file here. We created some Python files when we were working on the quiz review stuff last time. But one of the things that we didn't do is just creating something from scratch. And I want to do that real quick, just for a second. We talked about that map function. So something like def foo x, and then return x plus 1. And if we have a list 1, 2, 3, we can say xs equals map of foo comma xs, and we have to turn that into a list in order to be able to print it. And one of the things that, I don't know, beginning programmers commonly do, I did this a lot when I was a beginning programmer, is that when you print to print something out, you just print it like this. And when you have a really small program, that's okay, because you know what's going to be happening. You know when there's output, there's only one print statement here, so you know exactly what it is. But starting next week in particular, we're going to start getting some really complicated programs, and we'll want to have better debugging tools in order to work with those complicated programs and understand what's going on. And so the goal of this lab is you're going to end up using Vim, getting one of these really good debugging tools with Vim. And so I'm going to show you what that looks like here in a second. We have this variable xs right here all by itself. And I'm just going to type 2 keys on my keyboard, the @ sign and the P sign, and it's going to do a lot of stuff for me. It's not going to do it for you yet, though, because your computer's not set up to do this. Oh. And yes, mine is also not set up right now. So we'll set up mine here in a second. But what I want it to do is to automatically, for me, print out, add, just with a 2 keystroke combination, add this print statement right here, so that anytime I have a variable that I want to print, that I will be able to do that really easily. And so anytime I'm debugging, it'll just, in 2 quick keystrokes, add something like this. Vim has something called macros built in that let us do this. And the point of the lab today is to get those macros set up on Vim for you. And in order to do that, we will have to talk a little bit more about GitHub. So we're going to talk about GitHub. At this point, following along with everything is the goal. You should explicitly be following along with everything that I do. And then at the end, you'll have those macros set up. So right now, this web page right here, I'm on the topic 1 And down here on the lab right here under the instructions, I have this new workflow right here for GitHub. We're going to be going over that here in a second. Our ultimate goal, though, is there's this file inside of here called pmacro that we're going to need in order to set up our our Vim in order to have this special feature. In order to get this file has special characters inside of it. And so if you click on it and try to copy and paste, copying and pasting would not work. These special characters can't be displayed. And so, yeah, there's stuff here, but it's kind of gibberish looking. Not all the characters can be displayed, so it's impossible to copy and paste this. We actually have to somehow use Git to take this from the internet and put it onto the Lambda server. I'm going to come back over here, come back into our project folder where I have our CS46, type ls here. And the sort of fundamental problem is that on the Lambda server, we are behind. We say that our Lambda server repository is behind the upstream repository. We're behind what's on GitHub. That in this repository down here, we only have the topic 0 folder, and we don't have the topic 1 folder that contains that p_macro. And so the question is, how do we go about getting that topic 1 folder so that we have access to that file? A number of you, too, on GitHub have run into situations where you are trying to issue a pull request to my repositories, and you are getting that errors saying that your repository was behind my repository, and so it wasn't working. And so this will also fix that situation. The idea is we're going to follow these steps down here in order to update the Lambda server with the latest upstream repository. So there's a lot of steps here, and they're confusing. That's okay. We'll go through them one by one, and that'll update things for us. The numbers here are divided into both negative numbers and positive numbers. The negative numbers are things that you only have to complete once. And then whenever you have to redo this step sometime in the future, you'll start with the positive numbers and only do the positive numbers in the future. But right now, we're starting from the smallest negative number. So this fork right here, that's something that's already happened in the past, that we had our upstream repository. We forked it to this repository down here. So you should have already done that, the -3 step. The -2 step, cloning it onto the Lambda server, already done that. And then there's this -1 step, which is new commits have happened on the upstream repository. I've done that. And so now we're on this 0 step right here. And again, this step is something that you only have to do once right now. And then in the future, anytime you have to do this, you'll start at position 1. So this git remote command, if we type git remote down here just by itself, what we're going to see is that it lists this origin. This is the only location that Git on the Lambda server currently knows about. And that's this spot right here. And we have to tell Git about this thing up here. If you do git remote -v, V stands for verbose. In most commands on the command line, you can add a -v to get extra information. And here, if you do this, it'll tell you the actual URL associated with each of these names. So origin is this URL. I'm logged in as the example student account. That's where we been doing everything. And the example student is all behind of the upstream repository. In order to actually get access to this upstream repository from the Lambda server, it's this command right here, git remote add upstream, and then the URL. The URL is, I'm going to scroll up here for a second. Actually, we'll just come to a different tab. The URL is if you click on the repository right here, that same URL that you would use for cloning by clicking on the name of the repository and getting the simplest URL possible for the repository. So it's git remote add upstream and then the URL. the upstream, technically it can be whatever you want. This is just going to be Git's shortcut for whatever URL you put over here. So the vast majority of times people will have an origin and an upstream, but in more complicated situations, you could have other like URLs that you're referencing, and the name of those URLs you just put right here. If you do that, hit enter, then you type git remote -v like that. And now you can see there's both of these remote locations listed. And so now we'll be able to get information from this upstream repository. In order to get the information from the upstream repository, the command is git pull upstream, and then the branch that you want, 0.3 spring. Before I hit enter over here, I'll just come back over to the cheat sheet. So position 0 right here was the git remote add, and then position 1 is the git pull upstream branch, which is going to take the information actually from the upstream repository and put it back onto the Lambda server like this. I'll hit enter. You get a handful of output like this, type ls, and now you can see that this topic 1 functions actually has appeared. Question?
Mine says pulling is not possible because you have unmerged files.
If you get an error about unmerged files, if you run git status, so I don't think I can reproduce this error right now easily. If you run git status, though, you should see that there's a list of files in red that are that you have changed somehow. In order to make the pull successfully happen, you have to make those changes go away. Make git status be blank. The git pull command will only work if git status is not showing any files, if it's telling you there's nothing to commit, working on a tree, working tree clean. In order to get into this state, there's 2 things you can do. So I'm gonna real quick just add some stuff to the README file down here. I just opened up the README file, made some changes, ran git status like this. This created this red file right here. I could run git add git commit this file if I want to save these changes for the future, or if I don't care about those changes, if I just want to delete them, get back to where I was, then running git checkout followed by the name of a file. So this is different than the git checkout commands we've seen in the past that you're using a branch name or a commit hash right over here. But if you use the name of the file, then it will delete whatever changes you've made to the file to reset that file to what it used to be. So this is the best way probably for you to run the git pull command if git pull is not working. You run git status, see what files have been updated, and then run git checkout on those files to what we say is we revert those files to their original condition. Good questions. Any other questions? Yes. Good question. So anytime with the git commands that you have a file over here, you could list multiple files right after each other, or you could list a folder. And if you list a folder, it will basically do it to all the files inside that folder. Yes.
I'm getting an error says
Can you say what the error is again?
need to specify how to reconcile.
Need to reconcile divergent branches. I'll help you out one-on-one after this in a second. Okay. Okay, so okay, let's go ahead and I'll reproduce this issue. In order to reproduce this issue, I'm just going to need to make some more changes to the upstream branch. I'll do that real quick through the GitHub interface. Yes.
think it's because I just checked out what branch are we in, and we are in the master branch. So maybe that's it.
There should not be a master branch for you.
Oh,
So inside the purple right here, it shows you what the branch is, and that should say 2022-23 spring. If you run git branch, it should say 2023 spring and have a star next to it. Is yours is saying master though?
mine has two branches, master and 2023.
Then run git checkout 2023 spring and be in that branch. Yes.
Is it because after 2023 spring, it has an equal sign instead of a great?
The thing over here, it has meaning, but it's not that. So yeah, what I'm doing right now, in order to be able to reproduce the error that you all are getting, is I'm just making another change to the upstream repository so that it makes sense for me to be able to run git pull again. And so up here, if I just will edit this README file real quick again, you shouldn't do this. Editing the file. You shouldn't use the GitHub interface when you're making changes to things in this class. I'm just doing this so that we have some changes upstream, though, that now we don't have down here. And if I run git status or vim readme, you can see that the change is not reflected down here. And in order to reproduce this error, I think what's going on is likely that you have commits in the branch down here that are conflicting with the commit that I just made up above. So through the GitHub interface, I made a change right here, adding a comment down here. I'll make a different change, add a different comment. I'll actually just put that in the same spot. It's two different comments in this same spot right here. And I can't run git pull right now. If I run git pull upstream 2023 spring like that, then we get this error message that we talked about before of your local changes would be overwritten by the merge. I could run the git checkout to delete those changes, but instead I'll add this git commit added changes like this, and now git status. So there's nothing wrong here, but I have changes in this README file that are not in the upstream README file, and I have changes in the upstream README file that are not in this file. And so if I try to run a git pull upstream 2023 spring like this, then I get this divergent branches, need to specify how to reconcile them. Is this what other people are running into? Question?
Yeah, I got this and I did the rebase. That's fine. Do the rebase true.
So yeah, there's three strategies down here about how it can how to fix these problems. The details between exactly what these three strategies, how they're different, are not important for us. But Ben, you're saying that you ran this command right here? Yep. Any one of these commands should fix it. So we'll just go ahead and do that one and then rerun that. And now it has done that. If you see down here in this, this purple stuff, then you'll get this really complicated looking thing down here. This means that you're not actually on a branch right now, that you're in what's called this rebase mode. And rebase is a little bit confusing to work with, definitely an advanced feature of Vim or of Git. So my recommendation, yes, I probably should have said this before I put it in for everybody. I think the fast forward is usually the simplest one. That's the easiest it should just take you to a good setup state. But if you do that one, then it will should just merge the two files together. You'll get a merge conflict and have to fix it. Here, we're sort of in like the same merge conflict state, though. This README file, if we vim the README, it has this like the head added changes down here. And so it's telling us that like we have these changes to the file. It just doesn't know what to do with them. And so if we'll go ahead and keep both of the changes to the file like that. Git add README, git commit -m, merged, and then we have to end this rebase, git, which I don't know how to do off the top of my head, so I will do a quick Google search for us. Git end a rebase. Completely undo. So we get rebase, see if that, yep. So that's what get rebase dash continue there gets us out of the rebase, and now it's those two changes have been added together and everything is how it should be. We know it's how it should be. We know we're in we would say a sane environment now, because the stuff in the purple is back to just a single branch name right here. And now our README file has all of those changes from both of the upstream and the stuff that we edited on our local file. And if I run ls again, we have this topic 01 functions. Any questions about any of that so far? Yes.
I think I did it wrong. I read the fast forward one and it's not.
If you did the fast forward, then you're in the merge commit or the merge conflict state. And if you vim readme, it should show you something similar to what I had up here. And then it'll be just a vim add vim commit should fix that. If that's not working, we're almost done up here. I'll come help you in a second. So just the last, I guess there's two last things for us to just see. The first one here is that I have so right now I'm looking at the Mike is Bicky repo upstream. I want to take a look at the origin again, cmc-example student. And if we take a look at the origin repo here, we can see that the information has not propagated up to the origin repository on GitHub. That down here, what we've done, so again, the negative things, the negative steps were the steps from the last lab. The 0 git remote add, just telling the Lambda server about the upstream repo here. Then the git pull branch, getting the information down onto the Lambda server. And then we did the little digression about sometimes git pull branch results in these merge conflicts. And so you have to resolve that somehow. And our last step over here to get the information from the Lambda server back onto the the origin repository is what we've done before. What we did in the last sort of git pattern is this git push origin. And if you run that git push origin 2023 spring, and you'll have to type in your password. Again, it's the personal access token and username. Then it will upload all of that to the origin repository. And then because we have made a commit inside of this origin repository that is not in the upstream repository, it's giving us this option here to open up a pull request. And so again, anytime you want to make a change to the main class repo or any of the other repos, you have to first make sure that you have all the existing changes in the repo, going through all the steps that we just did, and then you can issue the pull request with your new change. Henry?
Mine says failed to push some graphs.
If you're getting denied, it's because you used the wrong password and not the personal access token. If you think that's not the case, then I'll come take a look at that in a little bit. And so one of the reasons I wanted to do this in the lab instead of the normal lecture is there's anytime with Git or any of these things, there's just lots of weird ways that things can go wrong. And so I want to make sure that we have time to look at all those things one-on-one. And I promise I'll do that here in just a second. One last thing for us to do, going back to our original motivation about why we wanted to update. So in this, the last step of this lab is how to get these this macro thing working. And so what I'm going to do, cd into the topic one folder. As long as you have this topic one folder on your Lambda server, you should be able to follow along with these steps. And this p macro right here, if I do vim p macro, open that up, I get this long weird string. All these things in blue, those are the special characters that can't be copied and pasted. And what I'm going to do is, in Vim terminology, I'm going to yank this into the P register. In more normal human terminology, that means copying it to the clipboard. The actual commands, the sequence of keys for you to type in are listed right here, that it's the quotation mark P, Y, Y. So if you type quotation mark P, Y, Y, then that will copy it into your register. And now if you do something at P anywhere on a line that has a variable on it, like hello world at P, it will put out the Python code, print that, and hello world. And so you can always, when you're debugging things, type at P and get yourself a nice print statement that will both print out what the variable is and a little statement telling your future self what it exactly is that you're printing. So you know you've done that step correctly if you can just type at P and it does that. Before I go around and help people with all the weird Git problems, any questions on the Vim? Okay. There's nothing to turn in for lab to today. It's just the rest of the time is for you to get questions answered and work on the homework assignments. I don't think the homework assignment's too long this week, so hopefully a lot of you will be able to finish during the rest of the lab time here. But I'll be going around just helping people with all the different problems. I guess I'll start on that side and go this way. And I will